All right, good evening. I'd like to call to order the Wednesday, November 9th regular meeting of the Haymarket Planning Commission. Roll call, please.
Handy.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Cottle.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
All right, if we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A moment of silence, please. All right, thank you. You may be seated. All right, first order of business is minutes approval. So, if commissioners, you could look at the minutes.
Because of the fact that the last meeting you had was in September, there was no October meeting.
True.
Of course, I did not attend the September meeting. I'm going to be responsible for getting what we call status minutes or bullet point minutes to you as in my position as the town planner, zoning administrator, and the clerk to the commission. Denise is here tonight recording the meeting. I will compile basically bullet point action item type minutes for the planning commission. Okay, we will have the recordings available online. Tonight there are no minutes because I literally could not get into the system to listen to the recording of the last minute of the last meeting and compile those minutes. I am hoping that will be rectified very soon, and as soon as those minutes are prepared, I will email those to you, hopefully maybe in the next week or two, well in advance of your next meeting. But I wanted to explain to you what that problem was and why you don't have minutes to look at from your September meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to public hearing. Is there a citizen that would like to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. I'm sorry, citizens' time. We're skipping to 6. Okay, public hearing. There is no public hearing at this time. So announcements. Does anybody have an announcement for us? All right, moving on. No announcements. Okay, ARB and Town Council update. So, Mr. Leek, do you have any updates for us?
Yes, sir. We had our meeting on November 7th this past Monday. We had an update from VRE in regards to their expansion out to the Haymarket Gainesville. And speaking with them in the presentation that they provided with us, at this time it's looking that the amount of grants that they would need roughly, and these are not hard numbers because I have not talked with Norfolk Southern, but roughly about $400 million is what they need from federal grants. And unfortunately, looking at the grants that are available, we would not qualify in regards to having the expansion out to the Haymarket area, Haymarket Gainesville area. The grants that they are most likely able to get from the federal government would allow them to extend the Broad Run yard from 16 trains to 22 trains, which would then, they would need to extend the yard and get a new maintenance yard as well as some additional tracking in there. So they're looking for a recommendation from Prince William County Board, Manassas, City of Manassas, as well as Haymarket to see what our recommendation is for them. The council just heard about it. We'll be discussing it in our next meeting and then making a formal recommendation to VRE in that regards. We also had Miss Smith from the Berkeley Group. She is now our official zoning administrator. The the Harrow Park got a new name. We had, I believe, almost 1,200 votes, and it came down to between two different Haymarket Community Park and Harrow Park, and Haymarket Community Park was the winner. There was one aspect that I wanted to make sure I brought up in case any folks were listening or the Planning Commission saw the meeting. There was a comment at Citizens Time in regards to the town being in financial trouble, as well as we had a hearing in regards to a contractor, and the lawyer for that contractor also made note to the town being in financial trouble. I want to assure you that the town is not in financial trouble. We invite everyone to come to our financial committee meetings. We have more than what we need to in regards to VACO and our cash reserves, and looking at our expenditures and payroll, we are just at where we need to be, right around 25 to 30% at this time in the given year. The one thing that the town council wanted to have staff make sure that we do for our next meeting is make sure that we put in a treasurer report and have the P&L in there so it can be public to everyone. But I wanted to make sure that we clarified that for any folks. Also, we had Alzheimer's Awareness Month, and those were the big ones. Any questions?
I thought I saw in the paper that there was a possibility of extending VRE line somewhat, not necessarily the Haymarket, but within the area where it already exists, just a little bit longer line. Are they still talking about that?
That would be the expansion for the Broad Run. The Gainesville Haymarket is pretty much off the table because of the grants, but that would be the Broad Run extension. I believe we have a packet here from VRE I can make sure I can get for everyone.
So that would basically be within the same Broad Run area it is now, then?
Correct. It's just, I believe it's moving it just west, if I'm not mistaken, and which allowing them to put a bigger train yard, because you can only add so many cars to a train before you end up needing to add another train. So right now they're able to have a capacity of 16. They want to increase that capacity to 22, but to be able to increase that capacity to 22, they are required to have a larger yard to be able to store those trains, since we are the most western point of that VRE. So they couldn't just keep 16 trains there, and they can't keep them on the track. So they need a bigger yard as well as maintenance yard. So that would require the Broad Run extension.
Were they also talking about adding additional runs per day?
Yes, that would be the increase from 16 to 22.
Okay, so that would, all right. Thanks.
What's the basic reason, if I need to ask, that Haymarket doesn't qualify for any of the grants?
Just the type of grants and the qualifications and the criteria. If I tried to quote the gentleman, I want to do due diligence. But pretty much looking at the criteria for those grants, we don't meet that criteria.
The other question I had was, do you know what the source of the rumors of the financial strain, where has that arisen?
Just, I believe, because there was not a treasurer report for the last 2 months. And as we're going in the month of September, we did not reappoint our town treasurer. And so because we didn't reappoint our town treasurer, we have been doing a great job. Our town staff is going above and beyond and completing everything. And the town treasurer report just didn't make it on that meeting. And so because of it, a town citizen brought concern to it.
Thank you.
Do we have a new town treasurer? Or
We are currently looking for a town treasurer and town clerk. I believe we've received a great amount of applications for that position. We're actually putting that position into one. Currently, right now, our interim town clerk is Miss Denise Hall, Miss Denise Andrews, and then our town treasurer is currently Miss Donna Beam.
and will that be a full-time job, the treasurer clerk?
It will be a full-time job. We are in the process of wrinkling out the last minutes, the last parts of a contract with a town manager, and should be able to announce who that is here shortly.
Thanks, Connie.
Pleasure.
And as far as the $400 million, I'm assuming they've tried other funding avenues to come up with that?
Correct. That's just half of it. They're needing, I believe it was roughly around 800. Those are not hard numbers, for the mere fact that they haven't really gone to Norfolk Southern and seen what the cost would be to be able to use that share track and put in an additional track. for them out here, because the line that they're using for Norfolk Southern, is their main point to go west into the United States. So being able to put another train, a passenger train on that track, needing to see if we need to go double tracking from there.
And I know long-range planning for western Prince William County and Fauquier, it should be nice to have a train stop here. I go to the VRE every morning, commute with the guy to work, and that place is packed.
Yes.
I mean, absolutely packed. So,
Will they be expanding the parking lot there? I mean, is that a problem, Matt? I'm not there in the morning.
well, the parking lot's full, and if you've been to the VRE, where you turn by the Wawa and then you make the left back in there, there's a little access road, and they're lined up on either side. I mean, on any given day, the parking lot's full and the road leading up to it. So it's heavily used. So that's too bad. Maybe something will come up.
It seems that in the not-too-distant future, too, it would be even more used when you hear what happens on 66 almost every morning. From Gainesville to the Beltway is sometimes as long as 55 minutes. And in the last week, I've noticed that, and that's as early as 6 in the morning. That's a lot of traffic.
A lot of these things are fluid, so you never know.
Indeed.
Never
They-
know.
They obviously do not make sufficient monies on what they charge for a fare to support. They don't have any extra monies from that to support expansion, I'm going to guess. from what you said.
Expansion, well, to expand all the way out to the Haymarket Gainesville area is just the amount of money that's having to do that, for the mere fact that they're having to put another track, is just so tremendous compared to where if they're just expanding their current operation from Broad Run to a larger yard and moving it down. So the cost effectiveness between doing that and then running it all the way out to Gainesville and Haymarket is just, at this time, it doesn't make sense.
All right, any other questions on the VRE?
So they did study, population study, and how many people traveling from here to DC.
They've done several studies, and it's been ongoing, correct me if I'm wrong, Connor, for probably a good 2.5 years.
I believe that would be correct. And Joe Passanello, who worked very closely with Doug from VRE, just could not say kinder words about the study that they did and the time and effort that they put into it and the due diligence that they did. And he agreed with the results. And because I believe Mr. Passanello has been in the rail business for almost 40 years as a consultant, and he said that he agreed with the results of the finding from the study that they did.
Okay. Any update on the ARB?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, if no further questions, we will move on. All right, let's go to new business, number 9, and then we do have one addition. First thing we need to do is the adoption of a meeting calendar for calendar year 2017.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. Yes, we have a couple of different dates for your meeting, and obviously this is going to be up to you. I'm available Mondays and Wednesdays to the town of Haymarket. I'm here all day those days. So either of those evenings should work, given that other boards and things like that meet on other, like I think the third Wednesday is taken by the ARB. The BZA is looking at adopting a calendar for the third Monday, I think it is. What is the 14th? Is that the third Monday or second? So it is the second Monday. They're going to need to, we've been talking on email, they need to meet to adopt a calendar as well. They're going for the second Monday. So that's out. Town Council is the first Monday. So one of the other Wednesdays, it's what is your pleasure. Whatever you choose, we need to adopt and then obviously publish by the first of the year. If you want to talk about it and decide next time, that's fine. Steve, what was his name? Shannon. cannot attend the second Wednesday evening, which is what this is. He could not attend tonight, and he said if that was going to be a thing, then he would probably have to give up his seat because he has a standing commitment on the second Wednesday. So, I mean, looking back in your calendar this year, I saw dates of the second Wednesday and the first Wednesday. This is entirely up to you all. I just would like to know by the December meeting if that's fine, so we can publish that.
I mean, I would like to iron it out tonight so we can get it done. I know we had talked previous on Mondays were not good for people traveling, so I'd rather stay off Mondays. How about the first Wednesday of every month? I know we had gone to, originally we were first Wednesday, but because of Marshawn's double duties, we went to the second.
Yeah,
So would the first Wednesday of every month work for the commission?
I would stay with that.
All right,
Motion.
all right.
Chair, I make a motion to adopt for the meeting calendar for 2017 for the Planning Commission to be the first Wednesday of every month.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? All right, let's do a roll call vote for this one, please.
Andy,
Yeah.
Lee,
Yes.
Carol. Yes. Carol,
Yes.
Yes.
Otto.
Yep, we do vote. All right, so motion carries. We'll go the first Wednesday of every month. And if something were to come up, weather-related or whatever, then we would certainly notify people well in advance, and we can work on a contingency plan. But I think most of the time, we're okay. All right, good. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, this time, Commissioner Leek, you want to, I know you and Holly had talked about this site plan for 6710 Madison Street. So, Holly, you want to lead that discussion?
Well, first, this is a site plan that has been around for quite some time. The applicant was able to get final approvals from outside agencies this past Friday, which missed our cutoff deadline to make the Planning Commission of Wednesday. If the item is not put on the agenda until next month, it will not go to Town Council until January, in which case they'll have missed the paving season. So the first thing that would have to happen before we even discuss the site plan is the Planning Commission would first have to decide if they would like to add this consideration of this site plan to the agenda. It's not necessarily a minor site plan, but it's a minor amount of work, which basically is it's paving a gravel parking lot, installing lighting, landscaping, and adding striping on the lot. So the first thing that would have to happen is you would have to decide to add it to come to an agreement to add to the agenda.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to add 6710 Madison Street site plan under new business as 9B.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, it's added.
Okay, so, as I had just mentioned, this is a site plan for 6710 Madison Street, which is owned by the Haymarket Charitable Lodge Foundation. Most people are most familiar with this property. It's where the tobaccology is located. They have been processing a site plan within the town that was required by their change in use. As part of the site plan, they had to provide paved parking spaces adequate to fit their changed use, and then bring their site up to code section in regards to stormwater management, landscaping, town ordinances, and so forth. Because the majority of the existing lot of which they're paving was gravel, and they're actually removing some of the gravel that's out there today, they're actually reducing the imperviousness of the site. For that reason, they did not need to add stormwater management facilities to the site, and in addition, it only required a small reduction in phosphorus load or BMP practices, which the DEQ in the town allows them to purchase something called nutrient credits. It's kind of like a bank where you go and say, okay, I'm going to purchase so many nutrient credits within this watershed to cover my site. This is the exact type of plan that qualifies for that. So they wouldn't be doing any on-site stormwater management or BMP. They're not doing any right-of-way. They didn't need to donate any right-of-way or grant any easements. And so basically it's putting in a parking lot structure, a paved parking lot structure, putting in landscaping that meets our ordinances with buffers to adjacent neighbors, installing lighting because they'll be open after 5 p.m., and then striping the parking lot. So that is what's before you for a recommendation for approval to the town council.
Could you explain a little bit more how they will meet stormwater runoff needs once they tar it over?
Well, what it is that according to the current stormwater management regulations, gravel is now considered to be impervious. So the fact that they're now paving it, you're not increasing the impervious nature, and they're not changing the grades. What they're really proposing on doing is basically keeping the flow going the same directions as it was before, but they want to put a paved structure. And since gravel is now, according to the DEQ, considered to be impervious, and so is asphalt, they're not by the calculations, they're not increasing the amount of runoff. As a matter of fact, they're reducing it because there's areas of gravel that are out there now that they're going to remove and put grass back in. So they're actually slowing down the runoff. You still have requirements that for a site that's developed without what's called best management practices or BMP controls, for a redevelopment of a site, you still have to reduce the amount of phosphorus load on a redevelopment site. And that's what they're buying the nutrient credits for. It's like 0.08 pounds of nitrogen. It's a very small amount. And they're able to go to have you ever heard of a wetland bank where people will, if they disturb okay. What it is that there's think of it almost as like a sod farm. Are you familiar with sod farms? There's an area that has the nutrients, they're providing enough nutrients within the watershed that people can buy a little parcel of that lot to say that is what, me buying that and the contribution it makes to the watershed accounts for my need to contribute towards the reduction within the watershed. I don't know if that's real clear. It's like they bought like a little turf, a little thing of turf, like at a sod farm. They bought that little area, and that little area contributed enough reduction of the phosphorus and the nitrogen within the watershed that it meets their requirements. I can see you still look so confused.
No,
I'm trying to figure out a better
no,
way.
I can see that in some way you've grandfathered this stormwater management from before, and you've made the adaptions. Because the permeability of the asphalt versus.
It's not that it was grandfathered to the old technical requirements. What it is that the current technical requirements, the current technical requirements state that gravel is now considered to be impervious because it packs down and it's hard to get water through. So it's not that anything is grandfathered. They're meeting the current requirements. As a matter of fact, if they went by the old requirements, they would have had to do more stormwater management because gravel at that time was considered to be pervious. Okay. So they're actually meeting what the current guidelines are, which is hard for new construction and some people that didn't have all the gravel out there to begin with. Mm-hmm. They were fortunate to benefit from that. But they are removing some of the gravel. So an area that's considered packed down and there's no drainage is now going to have grass.
And even in removing that, they're meeting the number of parking spaces for that size lot.
Yes, they are paving. They are paving the required number of parking spaces, and then they're also providing overflow gravel spaces that are not required, so they're not required to be paved either. Okay. But just to make sure that the site has enough parking spaces.
For that size site, I believe, are required 8, and I believe they're doing 27.
Yeah, they kind of share some, they technically share some with the adjacent lodge. However, this is only a site plan for this site. So if at some time in the future they wish to do future the development on the adjacent lodge site, they'll be able to go into the formal shared parking standard with this site, because it's the same owner, it's just two different parcels. And since it's two different parcels, we look at them separately.
Perfect.
All right, good questions. Any other questions?
I had just one concern to voice, and it shouldn't necessarily stop our doing this, but since Steve and Kathy aren't here, is everyone comfortable without hearing their voices and their questions in going ahead with this? I realize we're under time limits, but I wanted to raise that so that we would at least address it.
I'm personally comfortable with it. I mean, I feel like we have 5 of the 7 here. So personally, on my personal opinion,
What is this property actually? I'm trying to figure out.
So if you look familiar with BB&T, right behind BB&T is the 2 parcels that the Masonic Lodge owns,
Okay.
and there is a business that has rented and pretty much went in and redid the inside of one of their buildings and is now a what's called Tobaccoology. And then Masonic Lodge sits to the, I guess, if you're standing out the door, it'd be to the north west, and they have their lodge, which is accessible via Jefferson.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm comfortable with, I know when I was on the town council, the last seated council, we talked about this, and it was pretty unanimous at that time. I mean, it's a small project, and I agree with you, it's a great point, but I think given the nature that it's been vetted before, thoroughly discussed, Marshawn approved it, I feel comfortable
We have a quorum.
moving
We
on,
should-
right?
Yeah.
And plus, if they're going to pave prior to winter, it's kind of, time is of the essence.
We did the same thing for the church
Correct.
2 months ago, so I think
This is a whole lot smaller than
It
the
is.
church. All right, any other discussion? All right, you see the motion before you. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Planning Commission forward 6710 Madison Street combined preliminary and final site plan to the Town Council with a recommendation of approval.
I second.
All right, discussion. All right, roll call vote, please.
Handy,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Cottle,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. All right, very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Holly.
Ms. Holly, I want to personally thank you for taking time to rush this through. Well, actually, I don't want to use the word rush, but to make sure that this was prepared and ready for us for today. I know that's something that I've always been like, hey, how are we standing on Haymarket? How are we standing on Tobaccoology? So I greatly appreciate you taking the time, and you as well, Ms. Smith, making sure that all the comments have been addressed and answered from VDOT and everyone.
Thank you, but I literally had nothing to do with this project. I just stood back and let the process, roll like it was. I think Holly provided excellent customer service here. She went over and beyond to make sure that everything was in order and could be presented to you so that you hopefully could have your questions addressed. This was Marshawn and Holly.
Excellent. Well, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
And also for the council, I think sometimes we don't say thank you enough, so thank you for your flexibility. And it's nice to work in a spirit of cooperation. So moving on, so we can cooperate and get home. Old business, status report on zoning ordinance update.
Thank you so much. Okay, and this, okay, hi there. This is, I guess, a continuation of a project you all have been working on throughout the year. I am working under contract from the Berkeley Group, so I'm here to represent the Berkeley Group as well as to be your town planner tonight. We have before you the draft as it stands to date on your desks, I guess you would call it, on the dais, for you to take home and study. It contains all of the comments, all of the changes that we're aware of, that was presented, to Marchant and to Darren at the last time you saw it. And in addition to some comments that were made by the former town manager and Marchant since then through the summer. We had sent updates in May as well as in August. There's been some ruffling since August, so I apologize. It's November before you're actually getting this draft in front of you. But it's yours to take home and decide what to do with now. If you would like me to place it on the agenda for your December meeting as an action item or a discussion item, whatever your pleasure is. But here's your zoning ordinance. The subdivision ordinance, of course, is item B. I want to talk about that kind of at the same time. You had contracted for a zoning and subdivision ordinance from Berkeley Group. We are going to provide the subdivision ordinance as a component of the zoning ordinance. It isn't here now, but it will be very soon. We are proposing to basically de-enact Chapter 30, whatever it is, that has the subdivision ordinance in it now, and combine it with the zoning ordinance. And this is basically for a more inclusive document, a more comprehensive document, one that's a little easier for the customer to understand. Your citizens are your customers. It's kind of how I look at it anyway. And so for them to be able to have a document that contains everything is kind of how we thought it should be approached. So, at this time, if you all just want to take it and think about it, if you want to have a work session between now and your next meeting, Darren is available, I think, on the 28th to possibly do that then. If you decide you want to have a joint meeting with council to have a work session between now and then, let me know that. If you don't want to talk about it again until your next meeting, that's fine. Darren can be here. I think it's December 14th is your next meeting. He's got that marked off. And so he could be here to help you with that, if that is your pleasure, if you just want to let me know.
I think our next meeting is December 7th,
I thought it was too.
because that will be the first Wednesday.
Oh, okay, and I'm sorry.
Because Steve wouldn't be able to make the 14th because it's the second Wednesday.
Right, so we adopted that calendar for 2017. If you want your next meeting to be December 7th, then obviously that's when it'll be. I was assuming that we were continuing with the calendar that we had, but that's fine.
No, I think our calendar that we have is that we're the first Wednesday.
We're
of
the
every
first
month.
Wednesday.
It is.
We
it?
settled it.
We may have had one or two pushed to the second Wednesday just because of scheduling.
Okay.
But the last one that we changed, our meeting date is the first Wednesday of every month.
Well, thank you for letting me know that, because there was some confusion with Denise and I about when that meeting was. None of us having been here and just trying to look at the notes and stuff.
It was adopted to be the first Wednesday to follow the same week of the town council, because it gave us time to get stuff up to the town council in time for their work session and creating all the docs and whatnot. It was moved because at the time Mr. Marchant was getting really involved in his day job, if you will. So we moved it to facilitate his being able to be here. So unless there's an objection, I would like to see us have the Berkeley group, and I'll certainly entertain other thoughts. But given the fact we don't have a lot going on right now, it doesn't make sense to hold a special meeting and the town incur more costs. It seems to me reasonable that this would probably be our only action item, if you will, in December. So I would propose that we take the next month, look this over, have the Berkeley group in on the 7th, and discuss it then, unless there's any objection to
Would
that.
town council join us on the 7th? Could that be a joint? I'm just curious.
I don't want to speak for them. I would have to check with all their schedules before I could say yes or no.
In other words, to have like a joint work session with the town council on the 7th, and I think the council would have to make, you could extend an invitation, is that what you all want to do, maybe? And then they could respond?
Your meeting is on the 5th, right?
Correct. When we had our meeting on this past Monday, I told them that I wanted to make sure that the Planning Commission had time to review this, make our comments to it, and then go into a joint meeting with them. Obviously, since we're the recommendation board to them, I wanted to make sure that we had all of our comments and everything together before we actually had the meeting with them. That way, we're not going into a meeting, getting all of our comments together. This way, when we go into the meeting with them, we can answer any questions that they have in regards to our process and why we came up with that recommendation.
And there's no time constraint here.
And this is something that we've been working on for a long time. It's been written, rewritten, especially the sign ordinance. You know how many times we've
Yes.
kicked that can around in light of Supreme Court decisions, and as soon as we adopt it, certain parts will become obsolete. It's kind of like electronics. As soon as you buy it, there's a better one coming. So I think, unless there's an objection, if we all took the next month, read this over, I think Commissioner Lee brings up a valid point, rather than us trying to answer questions, working through it at the same time as that. We've already looked at this. This is basically like the third scrubbing or fourth scrubbing, so there shouldn't be any really new things in here, I wouldn't think. I mean, can you speak to that? Has there been a lot of changes?
The
or any
changes that
new
you have,
information?
the changes that you have are based on your input from the last time you met, about this document. And a few cleanup type things, is how it was described to me, from Marchand and the former town manager.
Okay.
So what you have is a lot of grammar, spelling, editing, kind of that sort of stuff, because I think that to a large degree, that was some of the things that Planning Commission had, which obviously we would want that taken care of. I have only leafed through this looking for certain things to see, what are they saying about this, what are they saying about that, because there are things that I get questions about a lot. For instance, site plan review. Site plan review is a big question. I want to know how that's going forward. I have not read through the whole thing. It is a document I'll be working with, so I'm sure by the time you're ready to make a recommendation, I'll be much more familiar with it. But it looks like a pretty good piece, in my opinion. Like I said, I didn't work on it. Other people with my company did. But the things that I was looking for to be in a document I'm going to be going forward with, the sign ordinance is right in line with what I would hope, and other towns are still struggling with in light of the Supreme Court decision last year. The site plan process is I think, adequate, and there are some changes in there, I think, as from what I've told of what we're doing now, but they're to make it more expedient and more customer-friendly, which I hope is what we all want for the town.
And I know, Mrs. Carroll, you, if I remember correctly, corrected a lot of grammar.
And so when we're reading this, we're looking for language that is customer-friendly, aside from, as well as grammatical errors. And because, is that part of the purpose for reading this?
Part of the purpose of reading is to make sure we caught all the errors that you had the last time. Okay. Did we get that all? Did we miss anything? Do you see anything else that you didn't see last time that you think we need to attend to?
All right, so further discussion. Is everybody comfortable with looking this over the next month, discussing this as an action item on the 7th at a regular scheduled meeting, and then based upon that, either putting it up to the council, because ultimately it's in their hands anyway.
Right.
And I think it's important, which we all realize, we're just a recommending board. We don't make any decisions. But yet we perform a vital function because we're another set of eyes, and council has a lot to work on. So are we good with that?
Yep.
All right. So we don't need to vote on that.
Okay.
All right. How about the comp plan?
I've noticed in the previous agendas, as I was looking through to see what had happened before, that it came up a few times. It's not something I've had a chance to actually talk with Marchant about, again, because we're kind of like ships passing in the night with emails and lots of, we're really trying to get the zoning permit, the questions from customers answered first, and so that's where I've focused my time with him. The comp plan, you know, is it something that you would like to study updating after the zoning ordinance is passed, with the subdivision ordinance, you know, as a part of? Is that something you want to take up again and thoroughly study and hopefully update? Or is it something you want to put off for another year? You know, what are your feelings about comp plan?
Well, my feelings are that we tackle this zoning ordinance and subdivision update. But I really think, given the growth of the town, we've talked about this comprehensive plan a lot. I think we need to look at it one more time, because we've had a lot of information come into us about upzoning, downzoning, transitional zoning. Even with Dog's Day Out, that was a big thing. You know, what can go here? So I think, I'm certainly willing to hear discussion, but I think that's something that we need to spend time to really nail down.
In the next year?
Yes,
I mean, there would not be time.
right. I mean,
So, in other words, soon after the zoning ordinance is adopted, you want to tackle the comp plan?
I would say, I mean, what are your all's thoughts?
No, I agree. I think it's something that we should, I don't think we should overload ourselves with both of these at the same time, making sure that we're doing the due diligence and a thorough job on each one. And so with that being said, I think it's something that we should be planning to hit head on, I would say, probably February, in our February meeting. I think that we should be well complete with the zoning ordinance and subdivision update, hopefully by January, and if we can't start this in January, start it in February.
All right, so we'll go this way.
I go with that. I kind of agree with what Connor's saying,
Okay.
you know.
I see it more of a February item, actually.
Let's finish this one first, then we will go on the
All right. Because I know we've been working on these simultaneously, and sometimes, frankly, in my mind, they get interwoven and mixed together. I don't know how anybody else feels, but like, we'll work on one for a little bit, next thing you know, we're in another one. Sometimes it's hard to differentiate between the two. So let's go ahead, work on this packet for the next meeting, and if you could have the Berkeley group here, that would be great, to answer any questions, and even a review, since you all do this full-time. And then hopefully make a recommendation, and then let's plan on the comp plan, like Mrs. Carroll said, somewhere around February timeframe.
All right, it will be done. The February agenda will contain comprehensive plan. I do need to look and see what phase the draft is in. I'm not familiar with that at this moment. Obviously, I will be by then. So there will be something on your desks in February that you can, you know, we can work with and hopefully get accommodated through that public review process quickly. I know that when the mayor and I talked about the zoning ordinance, just going back to that to sort of tie everything up, he's very eager to get that adopted. Well, obviously, we are as well. And he said, as soon as you all have your recommendation, then they will start to schedule the public hearings and those reviews. With that in mind, I did go ahead and make a public review copy of what you have. If there are amendments, you know, from the December 7th meeting, you know, we'll update that copy, but that is the public review copy. There'll be opportunity for them to look at, take my card, offer comments, et cetera. It needs to stay here. It can't leave. We're also going to be putting it on the website in a PDF form so that folks can look at it and see. This is actually required that we do this. That we make the public aware that the Planning Commission is considering a recommendation, and then the council will be holding the hearings. So it's already out there. You know, I'll be the recipient of the comments. I'll pass them along as they happen.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the town planner update, 1 mile review area and status of current projects.
I didn't get this completed literally until about 5:30, so I'm just going to pass it to you. But expect something like this in your packet. This is similar to what I provide to the council, maybe with a little bit more detail. But it basically, you know, breaks out what we're doing, so, you know, by ongoing projects, development review, and how Marchant and I are handing things off, which, will grow into something else probably. But anyway, and some of the stuff you may already have seen, you may already know, if you looked at the council packet. But, with the Village of Haymarket Phase 2, which are those little lots along Blight Drive on the western side, the town engineer has approved the lighting plan and the landscaping plan. I have actually been involved in that some. My background is in historic preservation, landscape, architecture, and I do review lighting plans. So I work with her on those. It was the first one that I was able to work with her on, and we were able to work with the developer and get that approved pretty quickly. Dominion Power will be installing the streetlights along Blight Drive in the location specified on that plan.
Ma'am, do you know when that's going to take place?
They're actually putting the landscaping in. They've flagged it, they've staked it, and they are putting it in, as I understand it. I mean, it's ongoing now. I mean, they only got the approval, I think, last week, and so he is doing that.
Okay, and then, so would that be before the end of this calendar year?
I assume so. Now, there may be landscaping that is marked but not actually installed until spring, kind of depending on weather, depending on tree type and things like that. But that is, as my understanding is, he was very eager to get that landscaping in.
Right, and I know Haymarket Community Park, along the back
Yes.
of where I live, they've flagged that. I'm
Yes.
assuming that's for the 10-foot buffer that's going in there.
Yes, they are actually adding trees on town property, adding trees and trees that are very carefully selected, and the location was selected to be in accordance with what's already there, as far as the sunlight and the hydrology and all those wonderful things that you want the trees that exist to be happy with their new neighbors, the trees that are coming. So that was part of what we considered with the approval of that landscaping plan.
Right, now, is that going to take place before winter, or is that going to be a spring project?
I think it's going to be part of it in both, depending, like I said, on the type of trees that they're doing, the type of bushes that they're doing, whatever's appropriate, and their landscape installer is actually responsible for the viability of those plants. And if they die, they'll have to replace them, so.
Right, is there, because I have gotten a couple questions from the homeowners, any way we could get an update emailed to the planning commission of when that's going to take place, just so we can keep our neighbors
I will try to get
informed?
some more specificity from the contractor there about what's being installed when, if
Right.
you would like that.
Because
Sure.
I know it was staked about 2 weeks ago, so a lot of times when you see stakes in the ground, work
Yeah.
doesn't follow too far behind.
Exactly.
And I know we're getting into winter, and some trees can be planted in cold, so if you could just
Right.
give us an update, that would be great,
And you just like that, need to email that to all the members. Okay.
please.
Got it. We'll do that.
Okay?
Okay, so sheets, my understanding from kind of looking over the shoulder of the town engineer is that they are receiving, this is one of that Marchant is handling to the end, okay? I'm not really involved with that other than to be aware of what they're doing. They are still receiving comments from the agency. The only agency that they've actually heard back from is VDOT. And so that review is still underway. It is not complete. Do you have any questions about sheets?
Any questions?
I mean, I know it's going to be closed at some point. We don't have the date for that. That's incomplete, so.
No, I don't have any specifics about that at all. I think what they're trying to get all the review agencies to respond so that we can, carry it forward. I don't think they have a timeline for anything until they get all those responses so that they know when they can kind of start their clock. Yeah. I think one big thing, it wasn't big, but it was good. They were not required to produce a transportation impact assessment, a TIA, for VDOT. Even because they are expanding the size of the store slightly, and they're moving it, and they're moving entrances, but it was kind of, when they all met, and they met with Holly, it was considered a wash as far as the changes. They wouldn't really impact enough to warrant a transportation impact assessment, as it might have if this were a brand-new site and they were starting and they'd never done anything. Apparently, I guess, with what's going on out there now and what had been what the transportation impact had been from the store as it existed. VDOT was satisfied not to require that extra engineering. So that'll speed up their timeline some.
And in regards, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but in regards to that intersection out there, the Divergent Diamond, do you know, is it still on schedule to be completed beginning of 2017?
Well, that seems to be really, really fast for the amount of dust that's out there. Beginning of 2017 is just a couple of months from now. I don't know that. I really don't. What I'll do is I will ask Holly if she can provide you all an update, and I can distribute that by email too.
Because I know a lot of it's been up to grade, both sides now. They've raised it. And I know, again, depending on weather, but it seems like it's been clipping along at a pretty good rate. I don't know if that tractor-trailer accident where they had to reevaluate the bridge structure when they had the fire, but if you could just give us an update, I would be curious.
I talked to Holly early today, and she said August.
All right, so summer.
Yeah.
Okay, if you could just give us an
I will.
official update, that'd be great.
I will do that. Okay. So Payne Lane. And I don't know how much all of you are aware of some of the fun things that we've been dealing with there, but I'm here now, and one of my charges is to figure out how to get that site to be a happy place. So I met with 2 different developer groups in October with different ideas about how to redevelop the site, which is all great. Haven't seen any cash cross the table to the owner, so I don't know how serious they are. But as far as the activities that take place on site, there's a lot of moving parts there as far as which part of the town code is affected by these activities. There are some things that are under the zoning administrator's purview, which is me, obviously. There's a lot of what's going on over there that's not under my purview. It may be E&S and stormwater, which is Holly. There's a lot of building code stuff, which is Joe. There may be some things that actually just have to come directly from the town attorney. We are moving forward with what I can. The notices of violation are going to the property owner probably within the next week to 2 weeks, depending on when the town attorney gets his okay back. But we have a draft, and I'll be waiting to hear from him that it's okay to send. The building official, likewise, he has already drafted a report. The gentleman down in Florida already has a copy of that report. It just follows that it needs to be effectively said, okay, you have this report. These are the things that are wrong. This is the code that we're following, and you need to fix these problems.
So
there is a timeline, though.
So the blight ordinance is being actively pursued.
Well, see, and I don't have purview of the blight ordinance. That would be the building official, which is part of what he's doing. And
Okay.
Again, you have to, I guess, tiptoe through the minefield of the legalities and stuff,
Right.
which is the town attorney's job, as I'm saying. So all 3 of us have to work together to time this at the same time so that he gets notified at the same time of all this stuff. But I think in the end, the town attorney is going to be driving this bus because it's complicated and it may go to court, But we're needing to make sure that our ducks are in a row. The zoning ordinance requires that we give him a 30-day appeal window. When he gets notified, he literally could sit on it until the 30th day. And on the 30th day, he can then file an appeal to the Board of Zoning Appeals. So, we need to make sure that it's something that when he files that appeal, the Board of Zoning Appeals will find for the zoning administrator, okay? So that's one aspect of it. The blight ordinance doesn't go to the BZA, it goes to circuit court. The building officials things goes to the building review board or something. So he's going to appeal and he's going to try to push back, and that's why the town attorney has to make sure that we've got all our I's dotted and all our T's crossed before we pull that button, to get this rolling. But we're almost there. We're literally right here before we all go over the cliff, and we're just going to hold hands and hope that it all works. So that, just giving you that update, that it's imminent. You may hear some things. What we're hoping, though, is that some developer, like I said, we do get interest in the property, will decide to take it on. But But we'll keep you updated this time next month. I'm sure I'll have more news.
The two developers that you had spoken to, obviously, it's just speaking to them, and like you said, there's no cash crossing the table. But what were their interests in doing with the property?
Very, very different ideas. They actually had some ideas about what they wanted to do, and they were interesting. One, I guess, one of the people that was involved in the second group of people had actually been involved with a previous submittal for that property, but all the other people in that meeting were new. And of course, I wasn't involved at all, so trying to keep up with who did what was kind of hard for me. But the proposal was, according to Marchant, very different from what had been looked at before. And it was very different from the other one. The other person just had kind of a sketch plan, and he was going to go forward and try to get some environmental information about things that might be over there that need to be cleaned up, like the tanks and fuel and things like that, so that he would have some kind of an idea of cost. But we had a lot of discussion about what the town wanted to see in this town center area and what we would be looking for, as far as architectural details and arrangement and parking and all this other stuff. So I hope we gave them really good information to go back and kind of, design and think with. And we may hear something, I don't know. But we'll definitely be receptive to whatever anybody wants to do, and hopefully can accomplish. So, if there's no other questions about Payne Lane, of course, we just talked about the zoning ordinance, and we did add it as a December agenda item there, the subdivision the same. Of course, zoning permits come in, and they either go to the Architectural Review Board, or we can go ahead and issue them. So we've got several of those that we have processed or taken to the Architectural Review Board. A couple more just came in today. We have some information that's been submitted for the monopole cell tower by two different cell providers that aren't talking to one another, and neither of their submissions were complete. But I thought I would just let you know that that cell tower never got a special use permit as far as we're able to find in the file. Special use permits are required. It appears from the submissions that there are substantial changes to that pole that are proposed. They want to completely redo the support structure. So that may be coming at some point, maybe in January. I don't know, but I will keep you apprised. I don't know if, it was what they submitted was basically, can we get our building permit today? But they didn't really give us a lot of information about what they were doing. And so they have the information that they need to submit to us, and I'll keep you updated.
Thank you.
And let's see, the 1 mile review, we have two that we met with developers about, one to the west, one to the east. To the west, of course, is Carter's Mill Active Adult Community, which basically, they have a lot of open space toward the western side, which is the rural crescent. They have a community center there. They're very, active lifestyle type development. The traffic, it seemed to be, yes, they're going to be probably driving through town to a great deal, but a lot of them, they're going to go to the Walmart, and, we want the business here that they would bring. We're hoping that that would happen, but we're not seeing a huge amount of traffic impacts. And to be honest, I can't remember the number of units, but it seemed to me that it wasn't going to be a great deal. The John Marshall Commons, which is to the east, I think this has probably been before you before, as I'm understanding. The email that I got kind of fresh out of the blue was from Prince William County's Planning Department. They wanted to know if the Planning Commission would like to see the revisions and possibly provide different comments. So if you want me to bring it to you in December, the developers would like to come and present. And if you want that, great. If you just would rather not and let them keep the comments that you guys had submitted before, what's your pleasure? I have no, opinion here.
It's so long since we looked at that, at least In my memory, it's a couple of years, isn't it?
It's been some time, and since it's been some time, I feel like the planning commission, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think we'd like to knock the dust off of it and review it, and then give our comments again to make sure that they're up-to-date comments.
Okay, then I will have it added to the December agenda as well.
Because I know last time they had talked about a roundabout and lining up entrances, and I think,
And I think
especially,
that that's going on. From what I've seen, there's a roundabout, and the entrances are a little bit adjusted, and
and
there's,
especially since, there's been updates there, I think that's something we should definitely take a look at.
okay. And I'll have the developers notified, and they'll be here to present that just for your comments. It's not like you're reviewing it to approve.
Right.
But it's sort of an information item, and you guys, if you decide you have comments that you'd like me to formally present to Prince William County, then we can take care of that. Let's see, because the Architecture Review Board, of course, Mr. Leek, did speak to, they had 2 certificates of appropriateness that were issued in October. Of course, I'm here. Y'all know I'm here. I'm glad to meet you all finally. It feels like I've been some of the last people I'm meeting. Been here for a while. Marchant, like I said, is going to keep projects that he's been working on for a period of time. If they're toward the end and he's been working on them, it's kind of ridiculous to pass them to a new person that would have to roll up her sleeves, brush up, and get familiar with, when I could actually be working on the new stuff that's coming in. So that's why. And when he's actually supposed to be giving me a list of all of those. He's talked about so many of them that my head was spinning. I said, could you just give me a list of stuff that I'm not going to need to deal with? So when it comes in, I know that goes to you. And I think probably by the end of the year, or certainly by January, then he will have, passed the torch completely. If you know any of your friends and neighbors that would like to be on the Board of Zoning Appeals, we have one member that really isn't excited about being a member. She's there because she's a good citizen and wants to do her, do some service, but this is a person who's given us a lot of service. And she'd really rather not, she tells me. We have a vacancy that was created by a person moving out of the town, and so therefore was no longer eligible. So if you all have friends, neighbors, countrymen that you know about that would like to be on the BZA, if they could contact the town, me or Denise. I think there's actually a volunteer application on the website, isn't there, Denise? I think there is. So they could literally just fill it out and email it to us. It would be great. The town council needs to make some recommendations for appointments to the court, and there's a process to go through to get vetted. It takes some weeks. So, yeah, that'd be great.
I do have one question. Is there any way that you can invite Marchant to come to the December meeting, since we're having the zoning ordinance update?
Yeah, actually, he won, and I'm sorry, I completely forgot. He said if they want me there, let me know. I will ask him, and it's going to be December the 7th, because we were
Right.
thinking the 14th, so I need to make sure that he's going to be available on the 7th to come.
Yeah, I would like him here if possible. And he doesn't have to stay the whole time, but at least at the very beginning.
And just let him and Darren handle the zoning ordinance update.
That's fine.
Presentation and review.
Because I know he's well
I'll
versed
sit
in
down for
that.
that.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that makes,
Yeah,
I think that's a good idea.
that would work.
Okay, I will get that message to him.
All right.
So that's all I have. If you all have things for me that you want me to be working on or looking up, or if you have questions.
Well, we'd like to welcome you. I know when you come in and playing catch-up, it's kind of like a teacher taking over a class midway through the school year. It's not easy, but we appreciate it. And I know we have a lot of things like the zoning ordinance and things of that nature been going on for a long time, so it'd be nice to kind of wind some of these things down and move on to new business.
Thanks.
So before I hear a motion to adjourn, is there anything that the commission would like to bring up that we haven't already done so?
I'd just like to thank staff with the hard work that we've been doing these past couple months. Everyone's been going above and beyond. We've had some temporary staff coming in from other jurisdictions to help us out while we're looking for different positions. And I just want to thank staff for their hard work. They've been just outstanding, and I don't think we tell them thank you enough for everything they've done. So I just want to make sure we say thank you.
Miss Denise, you did a great job on audio tonight. Noticed your expertise over there. What can't you do? Maybe it's a good question, so thank you. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, good night, thank you.
Good night. Do you want your $20?